Hello, this is Dr. Victoria Geburah again, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. Oh my goodness, my hair. I did promise that I would talk to you about Donald Trump's Divine Triangle, and I just want to give you a couple of, just a quick review of how we come up with the Divine Triangle. The Divine Triangle, I learned this through my teacher's teacher in her book, Numerology and the Divine Triangle by Faith Javane and Dusty Bunker. So this diagram comes out of that book. It's a fabulous numerology book, and of course, even more than that, there's a lot of very profound wisdom that comes from that. And so I want to give a shout out to Faith Javane, who I never met, my teacher who taught me this, Linda Ward, and Faith Javane was a student of Paul Foster Case, so that's kind of the lineage of this information. And I think we've all made our mark, or have worked with this to our own understanding. So I want to say that this is based on my understanding of the Divine Triangle. Okay, so we have the Divine Triangle here, all right, and we have 3 squares and then 1 triangle in the center. And how you work with the Divine Triangle is that you take the person's first and second name, if they have it, and you put the letters of the name around the outside of the triangle. So we start here. This is the beginning point. This is year 0. And each one of these lines is a 9-year line. And so from 0 to 9, we have a D vibration, because we're doing Donald Trump, right? So D equals 4. Remember in the numerology, how we come up with the numbers, right? And then, so from 0 to 9, we're on a 4 line. From 9 to 18, the next 9-year period, we go to the O, and the O is the 15th letter of the alphabet, and so we put the 15/6 vibration here, okay? And so that was the energy of that next 9 years, and then the next 9 years is the N vibration, and the N vibration is I'm sorry that this is moving. The N vibration is the 14/5 vibration, and so that's 3 of the corners of the triangle. The other square, the other side of the square, is actually his birth month, and so we put the birth month here. So we put his name around the outside, and we put the birth month here, we put the birth day here, and then we put the year here, 1946. So that's how we get, that's how you set it up. And then the next 27-year cycle is part of something called the power square. This is the youth square. This is how he spent his youth, so to speak. And then here we have the power square, and this is the 27 years that we get to sort of build up our power in the world. And then at 54, we move into our wisdom square. And so what's interesting about him moving into his wisdom square is his name Donald was done at age 54. And so when he moved into his wisdom square, he moved into his John vibration. Okay, if he didn't have a middle name and it would be, and say his name was just Donald Trump, then we would put Donald back up there. So instead of this being a J, it would be a D, and O, and N, etc., etc. And so we have, he is now in the second line of his wisdom square, and he is on a 15/6 line, okay, because this is an O. Okay, there's the O. All right. Okay, so, and then in the center, if we add up the 3 sides of the triangle, we get his life lesson number, which we know is a 4. We talked about that the last time I did this. So, couple of things about the divine triangle. Whenever you see a square, even in an astrological chart, we know that this is a challenge. And so if you were to do your name on this diagram, and we added up the numbers of your letters and then, month, day, year of birth, depending on what square you're in, we would get a vibration. And this vibration would be challenge for you, okay? And he has here, in the Yourth square, the 39/3 vibration. Now, 3 vibration is a vibration of creativity, but it's also a vibration of sort of scattering your forces. There's a, I guess, epicureal sense, sort of like whittling away your days in happiness and, and doing your own thing and such. And so perhaps he wanted to do that, okay? We know from his history that that was not the case, that he was not sort of allowed to do that. He had a very ambitious, strict father. He had a very strict upbringing. He went to military school to control him. So there's always been an authoritative energy in his life, and this is somebody in the Yourth who's kind of a sensitive guy. What's interesting is that I'm also interested in graphology, and I just find it fascinating. And I saw on a website, and I don't know how accurate it is, and they weren't even quite sure, but they had a picture of Donald Trump's signature when he was, I think, in high school or going into the military school. It was when he was younger, and he had these big round circular letters, kind of like round and still kind of up and down, perhaps a little, backward slant to it, but certainly there was an openness about his signature. And now if you look at his signature, it's very up and down, it's very he presses hard, and it's very like this. He kind of has like an angry signature. So that is something that has changed, assuming that first signature is correct, that changed in his life. And there's certainly enough, I'm sorry about the phone, sorry about that. There's certainly enough in our understanding of his biography that would sort of suss that out. Okay, I'll be right back. Sorry about that. I had to take care of that phone. Okay, so we're in Donald Trump's Yourth square, and we have a 39/3. Now, in the tarot, that is associated with, one second, the Knight of Cups. Okay, and so the Knight of Cups is very poetic, very idealistic. There's an idealism about it. About the Knight of Cups. Now, the number that we find in the Yourth square is intimately connected with the eccentric angle that I talked about the last time we were together. And the eccentric angle is his wound, his shadow. And we know that that is the King of Cups. And so with the King of Cups as his shadow and his Yourth square being the Knight of Cups, there was definitely a theme of the father being stricter, trying to kind of bring this boy into the real world, whether or not this boy was emotionally able and capable to have that as an experience. He does have in his astrology chart Venus conjunct Saturn in Cancer, and oftentimes, although that gives you a lot of Venus-Saturn connections like that, you can become a real, especially in Cancer, you can become quite the real estate magnet. But it also has to do with an inability to be nurtured and not having your nurturing needs met. I've seen many people who have had this Saturn conjunct Venus that have not been nurtured as children, or certainly not nurtured through the parental roles. they get nurtured in other ways. Somebody always takes up the, when we don't get it in one place, we'll get it in another. That's just the way the world works. But so this is somebody who wasn't nurtured in the way that he felt he needed to be nurtured, and there may not be enough nurturing in the world for that. So, but as a child and as a young man, this was an issue. This is a challenge. So this is kind of where he's coming from. He's maybe idealistic young man with all these dreams, and then he has that energy of the authoritarian telling him that he has to succeed and you have to be number one and you're never going to be anything but unless you're number one. And on some level that wounded him as well. So that was his first 27 years. And when we look at this on the Tree of Life, because of course we can take these numbers and apply them to the Tree of Life, I'm just going to take this. This says 39.3. See that? And I'm going to put it where it's located in the Tree of Life. And so here we have it in a place called Tippereth, and this is the card, right? The Knight of Cups. And Tippereth is located in the heart chakra. And so there's a wound here, there's a challenge here. And so his youth was spent in his heart, and he was perhaps wounded there. I feel as though he was a very idealistic young man who had great dreams, and he's allowed a lot of those dreams to manifest for him, but at what cost, right? At what cost? Okay. So that's his youth square. Next thing I'm going to talk about is his power square, which is very, very interesting. I'll be right back. Hi, I'm back. Okay, so we're back to his divine triangle, and now we're going to talk about his power square. Now, his power square starts at age 27 and goes till 54. Now, the power square is the next 27-year cycle, and this is about building power and creating structure. Remember, we have a square here. Squares are also about creating foundations, and so this would be the foundation of his power. And so from 27 to 36, he was on a one line. So he starts off with this sense of feeling powerful by being unique, by being, the only kind. I'm the greatest, I'm the, whatever. I mean, he might not have had that realization at that time, but that was sort of the way he approached that 9-year period. And then at age 36, he moved into a 12-3 year. Now, I haven't done my due diligence actually on looking at his whole biography. I have bits and pieces, so I apologize for that. But here we have the 12-3 vibration, and the 12-3 vibration is connected to the planet Neptune. And Neptune is about, can be illusion, could be delusion, it could be mass consciousness. But it's a very, very powerful planet, and it sort of creates castles in the air, so to speak. It also requires us to accept what we can't change and change what we can, the Serenity Prayer. It can also be connected to addiction as well. And perhaps we know that he doesn't drink. We know that he had a brother who died of alcoholism. So he knew from that experience that wasn't the way to go. But this could also be somebody who's sort of drunk on power as well. I mean, why not, right? You get drunk. You can get drunk on whatever you choose. And then from 45 to 54, we have him on a 4 line. This is about building foundations. Again, he's had opportunities to build multiple foundations in his life. And if I do have the time at some point, I will look through his biography at these years and see how they correlate. But I haven't had the time to do that. So this is just sort of a scan of this. And then we add, so then we have the 14, which is just day of birth, right? And we add those up together and we get the 31-4. There's another 4, okay? Now, of course, the 4 is going to be about building foundations. But this 31-4 is associated with the sign of Leo. Okay, and it's a fire vibration, and it's a very highly sexual energy. Okay, but with this vibration we can have misuse of our sexual energy. So this 31-4 vibration is connected with the Five of Wands in the tarot deck. And in the Five of Wands, there's all these people, and they have their wands, and they're all fighting. So it's very chaotic. It's also a 5. It's about change. And so there's a lot of sexual energy here, a lot of changing, a lot of fighting. This really isn't fighting as in like fighting with swords kind of fighting. This is kind of like sparring. And so his verbal sparring, it in part helps him to have power in this lifetime. Now, if we go to the Tree of Life and see where this is located, okay, his power square is right here in Geburah. Couple of interesting things about Geburah. First of all, Geburah is the place of instant karma. And so he said a lot of things, but you can, dollars to donuts, he will be held to them at some point. Geburah is also associated with the planet Mars, which is our sexual energy. And Geburah is a place where you really need to learn how to know better. Because what happens is whatever you give out, you get back immediately, and sometimes threefold. So there's a learning curve here with Geburah. And although he has been able to build something, he's not off the hook when it comes to the karma of this. This 31/4 vibration is also associated, or can be associated, with sexual violence. So I'm just going to say that it's there in the chart. I mean, it's there in the numbers. And this is also located in the throat chakra. So his power comes from his ability to speak, right? And the things that he says are going to come back to haunt him. Okay? All right. So that is his power square. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is his wisdom square. Okay, so the next square, the wisdom square, goes from age 54 to age 81. And at 54, he ended his first name Donald and moved to his second name John. And we have the J here, and the J is a 10-1 vibration. I'm not sure when he started the Celebrity Apprentice gig, but this might have been around that time. 10-1 sort of catapults you to a new level. It's a 1, so it's about a new beginning. It's got that 0 next to it, which is the God force, catapults you to a new level. And again, we have this 1 vibration. And it's interesting that, his power square and his wisdom square start with a 1 vibration. And so it's all about him, and it's all about this particular line from 54 to 63 is the Wheel of Fortune, and so his fortunes change, his fortunes shift, right? And it has to do with the ups and downs and keeping your center through the ups and downs. Okay. So now at age 63, he moved to his next line, and this is the line that he's on now. He is on his O line, okay, and O is the 15-6 vibration. And the 15-6 vibration in the tarot is the Devil card. Okay? So he is on his Devil line. Now, the Devil card is a very interesting card. It has, it's a scary card, I'll say. Most people see it and go, oh, what's that? There's that scary devil. But the Devil card really is about becoming aware that three-dimensional reality is not our only reality, and that there are things beyond three-dimensional reality. It's very easy in the Devil card to get caught up in materiality, in the material world. I know there's a word, I'm not using it. And so you can become a what's the word I'm looking, you can become a victim of the material world and your need for more and more and more. And the best way to break the spell of this card is through laughter. And he has a sense of humor to a certain extent, unless it's about him, and then he has no sense of humor. So on some level, that's going to be part of his downfall, his inability to laugh at himself, which is not unusual when you're dealing with narcissists. They have a very difficult time laughing at themselves. But we have a great time laughing at him. I mean, the Comedy Central and all the comedy shows are having a great time. And it's really hurting his feelings. But, you know, he has to learn how to not take himself so seriously, which I'm not sure he's going to be able to do. And the next thing I want to talk about is the actual number associated with his wisdom square. Okay, I'm back. So this wisdom square, if we add all the numbers, JOH, and we add the 20 from his 1946, we get the 53-8 vibration. 8 vibrations are karmic. It's as you sow, so shall you reap. So there's that energy. Now the wisdom square is what we learn from our experiences in the power square. The power square, how successful we are in the power square determines how well we deal with the wounding around the youth square. The youth square really is our karma that we bring from other lifetimes, and especially our family karma. Our family tends to be all the characters of our last life that are pushing all our buttons, and we move as we move away from that. At 27 we have the Saturn return, or right around that time, and we start to become our own person, and then we become our own person in that 27 to 50, the next 27 years, which is another Saturn cycle, and then our last Saturn cycle becomes our wisdom cycle. Okay, and so he is of course in this cycle. He's in his third Saturn. See, first Saturn return, second Saturn return. So he's in his second Saturn return, which is the third, portion of life. And so here we have the 53/8, and this is the card associated with it. This is the Knight of Swords. Now, just to go over, this was his youth square. This was his power. And then his wisdom square. Okay? And so he went from a knight to a knight. Now, what's interesting about this card is that here's somebody who's there to save the day. Here I come to save the day. Remember that from cartoons? I'm probably aging myself. Dudley Do-Right. So he feels as though perhaps that he is going to fix things. He is very confident in his ability to fix things. Yet he could be delusional. Something that I've noticed from my work with the Divine Triangle is that this line here is a very important line. Because it is and it's from 36 to 45, okay? And this line, this 9-year period, is really the base of the power square. And so how well we work this energy, okay, depends on how well we actually have power that we can stand upon, okay? And so with that 12-3 vibration there, which is the Neptune vibration, and the what can be seen as delusional, there is an issue here. The other thing is in his chart, he has Neptune square Mercury. Neptune square Mercury is often seen in the charts of people who lie, who make things up, and so we know that he has that capacity. We're not even sure he knows the truth. Although, I'll say this, he says a lot of truth. He says a lot of truth, but he says it right before or after he said a lie. So he says both things at the same time. He's very Gemini, and he's going to be very hard to pin down and held responsible for the things that he says. We as people may not, we as a country or a government or social man's laws may not be able to hold him down to what he says, but certainly karmic law will. So don't worry. He will learn his lesson. And I want to say something about that at the end of this. So we have somebody who is coming in to save the day. And, but this person... Hello, I'm back in a little different venue. I'm sorry, I had some technical difficulties. And so talking about the 53.8 vibration is somebody who comes in on their horse with the idea that they're going to save the day. And unfortunately, it is an energy that doesn't really think before it acts, and tends to create a lot of chaos in its wake. And so it has a pure intention on a level, but it doesn't have perhaps the discernment, and it doesn't have the needed judgment, because it is a knight. It's not a king. So that's what I want to say about the 53.8 vibration. And I'm going to stop it at this point and just say a couple of words about my point of view when it comes to Donald Trump and his purpose. And just from what I can discern at this point, it may change. Certainly astrology and most of the metaphysical arts are about observation and correlation, and so I might be surprised, but from what I can tell now, Donald Trump is very much a Uranian energy. Uranus is the planet that wakes us up, and he certainly has woken us up. He's woken us up to what works and what doesn't work in our country, and he is a personality that we can rail against, but ultimately we're going to have to decide who we really are, and not really, it doesn't really matter who he is. It matters who we are, and how we're going to move forward as a country. We will be having our Pluto return in 2022, and so this is a process of pretty much all of the structures that no longer work, or the structures that were built that were oppressive. It's time for those structures to come down, and we will be reborn as a country. What that will look at like, I don't know. It's up to us. We have to work within the present moment in a very, I think in a very loving way, and really decide what's most important for us as individuals. And America does have a special destiny, but it doesn't have anything to do with bombs. So we can talk about that also later on. I can do the numbers for the United States of America, and we can see what that has to say. But next time I will be doing Donald Trump's chart, and I do practice evolutionary astrology, so it'll come from a more evolutionary perspective. But I do look forward to that. That'll be part 3 of the series. If you enjoy this series, press the like button. If you'd like to contact me for a reading of your own, I can be reached at vicki, vicki, at theseedsoftransformation.com, and it has been a pleasure. I'll see you again later.